Hey, coconuts, recently there's a lot of discussion about US and China. I mean, okay, not exactly recently, but it's just like, nowadays there's more and more and more and more, right? So US, China, what's going to happen? And I don't think you really need me to talk that much about the US because the US is the order today. So whatever that's going to happen in a world where the US leads, it has already happened, right? So you kind of know that. But what about China? Where is the world going to be like if China takes the baton as the number one and leads the one, dominate the world? Okay, like it or not, China is already very dominant in the global order. But will it become the number one? Will it take over the world? And if that happens, what's going to happen, right? So how are you going to practice this thing? How are you going to do this? How are you going to live in a world where China leads? And I think there's a lot of questions here. I'm going to try to attempt to answer some of these questions over the next few episodes. So today we're going to start with the simple one. If China becomes number one, how should I prepare for it? Welcome back. So good morning everyone, I welcome you to another day with the Financial Coconut. In our podcast, debunking financial myths, discovering best financial practices, and discussing financial strategies that fits our unique life. You get it, ultimately empowering us to create a life we love while managing our finances well. So my name is Reggie, your chief financial coconut, and today we're going to spend some time to talk about the rise of China. Following the rise of China, what can you do to prepare for this future? Whether or not they're number one, they're going to be hanging around for a very long time, right? So they're going to be a significant part of the business world. They're going to be a significant part of your life going into the future. So how is that going to affect you? How to better prepare for it? Welcome back. So I think the truth is you don't need to love China. Neither do you love the US or love Japan, love Korea. Do you really love them? Or do you just love a part of them that's being marketed to you? When you don't work there, you don't live there, you just go there for 2 weeks, you're not kind of entering a fairy tale, right? You're entering a fairy tale that's been shaped because of media, because of content, because of culture, because of food, because of all the tourism campaign and all the things that are being thrown at you. But you don't live there, you don't need to love there, right? So, like it or not, okay, why do I put it that way? Because some people are like, oh my God, I don't love China, right? I don't like the political culture. They got human rights issue. They got blah, 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 all those things, right? So I'm not coming from moral ground to tell you that, oh my God, you must accept that it's like that, blah, 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 blah. I'm not coming from that ground. I'm just trying to let you know that, hey, you don't live there. Your passport is not there. You don't have some sort of native connectivity there. And why are you so emotional about it, right? Why do you need to come from a moral high ground to look at this situation? The reality is, you may never live there, you may never need to live there, you may never need to work there at all. But as China becomes a global power, as China, continue to rise, okay, the reality is they are already a global power. So I was like, should I say that? They're already global, okay? So the like it or not, as China continue to become bigger and more of its companies leave their country and hire globally and export their culture globally, export their business globally, what should you do to better prepare for it? I think that's the reality. But why I begin the podcast talking about that whole thing? Because I am sensing a lot of people coming from a moral high ground to judge what is China doing, and also coming from a very tainted view of what do you think it's good, what do you think it's the way to go to look at this situation. But like it or not, they're gonna be dominant, right? So you don't like the US randomly sending drones attacking other countries, they are dominant, so you got to work with them, like it or not, right? So let's put the moral stuff aside, right? The whole human rights and all of that aside. It can be a very lengthy discussion, but we are not the political coconuts, right? So focus on finance. So focus on personal finance. What should you do then, right, with China's rise? The premise is, as China continue to expand, you very likely will work with a Chinese company or work in a Chinese company, work with Chinese people that are not like Singaporeans, like Chinese natives, many generations that were born there and lived there, and now they're leaving, right? So there are three waves of Chinese expats moving out. Okay, expats a bit funny, because when the Chinese leave for the past about 100 years, 100 200 years, when the Chinese left the country, they were not expats, they were struggling, that's why they leave. Okay. So all the Chinese people in Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand, Indonesia, they were struggling. They're all struggling. That's why they left. Some people were traders, yes, but most of the people that came here, they were struggling from famine, culture, revolution, whatever. They came out, right? So that was one of the biggest wave of migration into this part of the world, right? Into the ASEAN region. Of course, there's all the migration around the world. We're not talking about it. The next wave of migration into the ASEAN region is really from places like Shanghai, places like Beijing, Tianjin, Guangzhou, where China made some money already, right? So the company was growing. They made some money. So they had a whole different level of people leaving the country and exporting them all over the world, right? So these people came here as scholars. These people came here as businessmen. These people came here with resources. It's a different discussion altogether. And now the third wave of exporting of people will very much be your middle class, your technicians, the people that are doing the technical work, right? So your engineers, your coders, your managers, and all these people are very highly likely you will be working with them. So yeah, you will experience a third wave of Chinese people leaving their country and start to live in this part of the world and many other parts of the world as their business expand. Just like when Japanese leave the country, they open HQ here, they open some side office somewhere else, they will bring Japanese people out there, right? So as Chinese companies expand, they will also bring their Chinese people all around the world. Third wave of global migration of the Chinese people, okay? Or at least into the ASEAN region, right? So that is the reality. There's also another thing that I think it's very likely to happen, that is the financial markets of China will open up, right? So it is very, very profitable for them to participate in the financial market, but it's even more profitable for them to run the financial markets, right? So because if you run the financial markets, you dictate interest rates, you dictate all the taxes, you dictate a lot of things, right? And we can talk about this as we go along, but I think that is an eventuality that even a lot of Chinese scholars are talking about it, right? They want to do it a little bit differently, but they want to do it, right? So that is some of the important backdrops that will be at play over the next few decades. So with that in mind, what should you do? And the very, very simple first one that you should do is to understand the Chinese work and business culture. Okay, I think this is very, very important, and it's been said again and again and again by many, many people. And I know it sounds very lame by now, but I'm going to share with you my perspective. I've decided to put this as point number one because I am hearing so many people say so many things about how should you perform in your job, how to become spotted, how to be a talent, how to get promotion, and all those things, right? And I think all rubbish. Why do I think a lot of them are rubbish? Because a lot of them are anchoring on the backdrop of MNCs, of European companies, of US companies. And that is something that we totally forget already. Like we don't realize that promotion, underlying a lot of these ideas of promotion and thriving in a particular system, is your assimilation with the system. That means how close you are to the ideal individual within this system, or how close you are within this cultural ecosystem, that will allow you to rise further. Okay, I think that's something that a lot of people have forgotten, right? Everybody talk about, you must be able to solve problems, you must take initiative, you must be a people person, blah, 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 right? So a lot of these things are being peddled out there in the world, but people don't realize that what is the backdrop? The backdrop is in a US company, there is a certain way of managing people. There's a certain by right. There's a certain ideal. In a Singapore company, there's a certain ideal. There's a certain by right because the management is different. The culture they say is different. The things they're looking for is different. So when you work with the Chinese, right, it's also very different, right? Which is why this is extremely important. You must understand how the Chinese people work. You must understand their business culture and their work culture. And I would say that it's generally diverse. The old 996 culture will shift out eventually because as the people become more profitable, they become wealthier and all that, right? Then they will want to have more, right? I really think the whole movement towards work fulfillment, towards a better quality work, towards a better work environment is on the basis of a lot of people having made their money already. If a big bunch of your team has 300,000, right? Imagine, okay, you work in a bank, or you work in a financial company, or you work in whichever, you work in the port, or you work in some of the bigger companies that are doing well, and you work for 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years, right? Okay, or you move around the sector, you work for 10 years. Right? Anybody that work for 10 years within this thriving sector has $500,000 or $300,000 at least, right? In their total asset or in their bank. So when everybody around you in tech or in all these thriving space, they have this kind of money, of course you cannot just give them money lah. Right? You gotta talk to them about, quality of life, lah, work-life balance, lah, fulfillment, lah. All those things start to come in because it's the higher order of needs that they are trying to fulfill. So I do believe that because of this growth of China, Chinese companies and Chinese people, the 996 culture will eventually fade off because people want more than just work, more than just career progression, right? So 996 is a culture in the past, I would say. And for all of you that don't know what is 996, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., you work 6 days a week. That is the culture, that is one of the underlying culture that is there, right? So, but, it will change. And as we go along on this podcast, I will try my very best to bring on more people that are within this space to try to share with us more about how the Chinese people work, how is it different, and all that, right? So let's keep going on that. Okay, but I would say that the first wave of Chinese companies that are coming out of China are from the south, right? So from Shanghai, from Zhejiang, from Guangzhou, Shenzhen, they're from the south. And a lot of these companies are tech companies, right? So the tech companies or they're pseudo tech companies, hardware, software, whatever. So a lot of these tech companies, when they come out, or Hangzhou, okay, tech hub. So they come out, they will bring their southern culture. Okay, so the southern culture is a lot more nuanced in the sense of everybody is like, oh yeah, okay, very nice, da 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 da. But actually behind, there's a lot of deeper, well, I don't know if I should say it, a lot of deeper kind of relationship management that goes on behind, right? So how do you manage the nuance of relationship? How do you, be part of the culture of Confucianism where you respect your elders, but at the same time be innovative? All that matters. Okay, although there's some dilution of those things because of the kind of global culture of the tech world, there is a lot of that whole southern work culture of Confucianism, of respect for elders, which is actually not very hard for Singaporeans, because we are governed by southerners. Okay, so if you if you look at the whole country is run by a bunch of Chinese people, right? And most of them were from the south. So whether it's Hainan, Hakka, Cantonese, Teochew, Hokkien people, they're all from the south and they work pretty similar. If you have a chance to go to China, you will not feel like you are in China. If you're in Guangzhou, if you're in Fujian, you're in Xiamen, you will not feel like, you just feel like it's a more Chinese-y Singapore, right? Because the people there speak similar accent, similar ideas, the way they act is pretty similar, right? So you just look at your grandparents, right? How they act is pretty much how a lot of the Chinese grandmothers, they do the same thing. Right, so it's pretty the same, and so I would say that the assimilation with the southern companies are okay. They're not as difficult. But if you happen to work with the northeasterns, right, the Dongbei people, which you will very likely in the next wave of expansion for China, they will start to export hardware technology. They will start to export, manufacturing technology, which is a lot of them are all based in Dongbei. Right? Why? Because Dongbei is so cold that that's where they had to manufacture a lot of things with robots, right? Because people cannot work in the winter. People rest 3 months in Dongbei, right? In the northeastern part of China, they rest 3 months during the winter because it was so cold. So in such a backdrop, right, it's very good, set up machines, right? So a lot of the biggest manufacturing, those kind of robo arms and all that, a lot of them are all based in that part of China, and they will start to come out of China and start to bring that technology all around. So as they come out, they have a very different culture, right? They have everything thought in front, right? And I'm happy just say, it's a very different, more 豪爽, more open kind of culture, right? So they're not as like the southerners, which is like, oh, very cordial, very courteous, and then behind we talk our things behind, right? So the people from the north are a lot more open, and that's a very simplified way of sharing with you. And I'm not saying that it's accurate. I'm just saying that you must understand the nuance of the backdrop. You must understand the work culture and the business culture that you're in order to rise up the ranks, right? It is not just about being proactive, being a people manager, all those things that people say, right? They all have forgotten what is the basis. The basis is which kind of company are you working for? What is the backdrop here? what is the kind of culture here, what is the ideal individual here. Only when you meet these things within this backdrop can you rise up, right? So this is important. China is expanding, you must understand the Chinese work and business culture. So it brings me to point number 2, and that is what you should do is shift your American ADR to Hong Kong and China A shares. I will share more with you after a word from our sponsor. Okay, there's some people out there talking about, American ADR and Hong Kong ADR is the same. They're all ADRs, American Depository Record Receipts. In other words, they are quote unquote all illegal listing. It is China's pseudo financial system at play, and blah blah blah. Right? I hear these kind of things out there, and I want to tell you that it's different. Okay, all the American stuff and the Hong Kong stuff is fundamentally different because Hong Kong is part of China. America is America, right? So I think that is important. To say that the effect is the same or the outcome is the same is fundamentally weird. Because Hong Kong has always been a port and a financial hub over time, right? And when China took it back, they kept that thing. They kept Hong Kong as a port. They kept Hong Kong as a financial hub, especially for external people. That means people that are not part of China, right? So your US, your UK, your European, your Japanese, even your Singaporeans. A lot of these big financial companies and big companies, they use Hong Kong as a gateway into China. So in other words, right, how can you say the gateway of China is the same as America? Different, right? So just to put it out there. So if you can, I would say you should shift your American, ADRs to Hong Kong if they are similar. Like let's say you buy JD, or you buy Alibaba, or you buy some of these other companies that you are invested in America. Maybe you can explore Hong Kong, or you can just directly buy A shares, right? There's a lot more accessibility with some of the bigger brokerages out there today. You can do it, and I think you should do it. Why? Other than China's rise of its own business, where that more technology advanced, they'll start to export those things. The next thing China will do, right, is really to expand their financial ecosystem. Why? If you think about it, if everybody trades in US dollar, okay, which is the current situation now, right? Everybody trades in the US dollar, and you are innovator. You created a whole new technology, let's say 5G technology, okay, or 6G lah. Okay, I give you 10G, okay, 10G technology, very amazing. I don't know what is it for, but anyway, I give you 10G technology, but you trade in the US dollar. What does it mean? When you trade in the US dollar, whatever technology innovation that you've created, right, is reinforcing the power of the US dollar system. Because only US dollar can buy this technology, ma. So all that you're creating, all that you're innovating, right, is to reinforce the US dollar's dominance. Okay, so if you see it from this way, why is China not incentivized to create its own financial ecosystem where everybody trades in yuan or the digital yuan going forward? All right, so China is extremely incentivized to trade in yuan. Right, all the technology innovation that they're going to create, all the things that are coming out, come on, man, they can send space shuttle these days. The International Space Station, you don't want to play with me? Okay, never mind, I do myself. So they can create their own space technology, they have their missile system, they have created their own aircraft carrier, they have built a lot of these military stuff and also a lot of commercial stuff, and they are building a lot of new softwares. So all these things that they are creating, it is stupid for them to put under the US dollar system because now they are the number one innovator. Let's say eventually they'll become the number one innovator. How can I do that? why am I so stupid, right? I reinforce the strength of US dollar for what? My enemy, right? And of course, China will say that, oh no, we are not enemies, we're friends, blah, blah, blah. 不要骗自己, okay? Don't lie to yourselves. Let's be real. We must be critical on both sides, right? So China wants to dominate, wants to grow, wants to progress. Whether or not what is the eventuality of China's dominance is a different story, but they want to. So whatever they say that, oh no, we are multilateral, we are open, blah, 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 it's all a political thing, right? They cannot go around saying, oh, we want to dominate, we want to be world power, right? And everybody will coalesce and attack them. Right, so they will not say that. So whatever future doesn't matter, but the reality is China is increasingly incentivized to create its own financial system because they are going to be the number one innovator, and it's stupid to support other people's financial system that way. Right? So they're going to create this digital yuan ecosystem. They're going to create an RMB ecosystem, and they're going to start with trading with Pakistan, Iran, Venezuela, all the people that the US don't want, and put as evil, they already started, and it's gonna keep expanding, right? So as Iran open up and work with them, then Iraq will come in, Afghanistan will come in. A lot of these quote unquote countries that were kind of attacked, then the US didn't like, right? They make friends with China first, law or Africa, right? They make friends with China, right? Oh my God, Africa China alliance is so much stronger than whatever the Europeans are trying to do today, right? So if you think about it, China will increasingly want to consolidate this financial system and put everything under RMB. So with that, right, you really don't want to be part of this friction, right? You don't want to be part of this friction of a possibility of retraction or the US sanctioning certain companies and all of what is the incentive for you? So as China opens up its financial economy to let you have a direct access where you can directly buy Hong Kong shares, directly buy China A shares, H shares, A shares, then why you want to own the ADR and have the additional risk of you don't know what's going to happen between US and China and what is this yuan ecosystem is gonna be like. So you can continue to buy the US shares in US dollar, but I would think that all the Chinese companies that you're trying to own, you should buy directly from Hong Kong and China A shares. And this is a change in sentiment from previously. Right? Previously, I thought, okay, never mind. But the more I look at it, the more I see how things are changing. Yeah, I think you should do this shift if you can. Okay, which brings me to point number 3 of what you should do following the rise of China, and that is to explore the Chinese culture. Different, huh? The work and business culture is one thing, so that's a work business environment. But the Chinese culture, I'm talking about tea, wine, art, calligraphy, music, poem, those kind of stuff, right? Are what China will export next. Okay, this is what I believe. So there's a lot of talks out there about the BRI, Belt and Road Initiative, and they get all these people to come in and they talk. But at the end, when they talk, right, you really don't know what they are trying to say, right? Everything is like, oh, China very good, China very good, China very good, or like China's going to do this, China's going to, but you ask them, so what is China going to do next? A lot of people are unsure, and what can you do next? People also, they cannot give you solid advice. So I would say all the technical work, right, like it or not, you cannot be part of it, right? You cannot suddenly become, engineer, or you suddenly become scientist, suddenly become coder. You got to go and learn it, right? So all the technical work, I'm going to push aside. If you want to follow the rise of China and you want to be part of the technical ecosystem, you can try. But I say that the Chinese are pumping out engineers like free. Okay, so even most of the US colleges, the people that are graduating from engineering, from math, from science, all the hard kind of stuff, right, are all Chinese people. Right, so honestly, they don't really need you. Okay, the Indians and the Chinese already fill the world with engineers. But if you want to be part of it and you think you can be the number one within it, right, go ahead, do it. But all the technical stuff aside, there are a lot of other business stuff, right? So business stuff, financial stuff, relationships, and more service and some of these other things that Singapore is already doing a lot. A lot of you listening, you're hired by these sectors, right? The financial service sector or the high-end service sector, whatever you. Service sector is huge in Singapore, right? So all these will continue to be the core of Singaporeans and will continue to be the core of Singapore. Okay, it's very hard for Singapore to compete on whatever other fronts that China is trying to do. But of course, I hope that we do but to diversify our economy. But as of now, the reality is as such, right? So with this, I think that your exploration of Chinese culture will aid you, in trying to build better relationship with the Chinese people and build a better understanding of how they see certain things, right? Because it's like high class, very very atas, right? So like like the people in the West, they have the whiskey culture, the cigar culture, or the golfing culture, the tennis culture, which some are being translated into China. But China is going to start exporting its culture, right? So and that is the part that I think you can start immersing in it. Try a little bit, right? Instead of going and learn how to draw acrylic paint and pottery. Okay, pottery is quite China. Okay. China came out with the early technology of it, okay, by the way. So instead of learning just acrylic painting, on your weekends, maybe you can go and learn Chinese calligraphy or learn some 山水画, right? Learn how to paint the Chinese way. Or instead of going to listen to symphony, maybe you can go and listen to the Chinese orchestra, get some vibes. Instead of going to the Starbucks or some Melbourne exported cafes, you can go and try the Chinese tea culture, right? Which I'm a big fan. By the way, I want to clarify. I used to run a Chinese tea shop, all right? And I've been to Yunnan. I stayed there for a while, and I explore a lot of the tea culture there. Okay, I also learned this Chinese instrument called a ruan. Okay, and I'm a grade 9. Okay, I got grade 9, guys. I almost did diploma, if not for COVID. Okay, so so yes, I am very very China. Okay, like it or not, and I worked there before. I understand their wine culture, their Chinese wine culture, how they do certain things. While I cannot give you vividly exactly how it is, but I will say that as someone that is biased in this, that is very immersed in the Chinese culture, I think it's very beautiful and you should try it. Right? Especially in going into the future where the Chinese become more and more dominant, you understanding their culture, you understanding their way of life, or whatever that they are trying to rekindle. Because honestly, yeah, during the Cultural Revolution, a lot of these things died, right? So a lot of the new quote unquote Chinese culture that are rising is Hong Kong and Taiwanese people going back to China and bringing it up again. Okay, but now it's different already. So internally, they're growing once again. So I think that's the part that will set you apart in the global order going forward. Of course, if you can speak Mandarin, right, that's a given, even better, right? But that all that aside, so technical aside, language aside, I think you should at least learn the Chinese culture or at least immerse yourself in some of these cultural assets that they will start exporting. I can guarantee you in the next decade, every single ASEAN country will have a Chinese orchestra. Bangkok Chinese Orchestra, Vietnam Chinese Orchestra, Malaysia Chinese Orchestra, every single one will have. I can guarantee you, right? Because that is how culture is being exported. The Chinese government will fund you, and then you do fundraising. The Chinese business ecosystem will grow. So a lot of these things will start to come up, and if you can attach yourself in these kind of cultural centers and be part of the cultural, I won't say elite but at least the know-hows, right? You set yourself apart from a lot of other people that are still, iffy about China. And hey, like it or not, even if China does not become number one, right, it will be number 2, number 3. It will still be around, right? So why not, right? So to sum up today, as to how do you better prepare for the rise of China, I think number 1 is you got to understand the work and business culture of Chinese people, right? Or at least the China companies now. And I would say the Chinese culture is very, very nuanced and very different. It is not like one block like, oh, China. No. There's a lot of nuances. They went through a lot of wars. There are a lot of local power. So they have a lot of different smaller local cultures. And this is important because I think too many people out there giving you advice about how to become an important player, how to get promoted in companies, right? They're all coming from the US-centric view of what is considered a good employee, what is a work culture, and how do you thrive, right? So I think understanding the different Chinese companies, how they work, their internal culture, and shaping yourself to be part of that ideal individual to get promoted, that is important. If that is your gameplay, if that is what you want to do, okay? Number 2 is shifting your American ADR to Hong Kong or China A shares. Like I said, China is increasingly incentivized to decouple their financial economy to form their own digital yuan, their own yuan circulation. So you don't want to be part of this friction. You don't really have a lot of high incentive to hold American ADR. So whatever Hong Kong access that you can get or China access that you can get, you should shift. Okay, so your JD lah, Baba lah, Tencent, all the companies that you are buying in China, in America from China, you should try to buy back in China. And number 3 is explore the Chinese culture, right? So tea, wine, art, calligraphy, music, poem. I think these are important, and it will set you apart to the next level. And I'm pushing aside all the technicalities, Mandarin language or the skill kind of stuff, assuming that you're not going to pivot into all these other things that China wants you to. You want to stay in your field, at least understand this culture, because they're going to export it and it's going to set you apart from everyone else. So I hope you learned something useful today. See ya. Hey, I hope you learned something useful today and truly appreciate that you took time off to better your life with the Financial Coconut. Knowledge is that much more powerful and interesting when shared, debated, and discussed. Join our community Telegram group, follow us on our socials, sign up for our weekly newsletter. We're doing a weekly newsletter reboot. We're going to have a lot of information within the newsletter. Everything is in the description below. And if you love us and want to help us grow, definitely share the podcast with your friends and on your socials. Also, if you have any interesting thoughts you want to share or you know someone that we would like to hear from, reach out to us through hello@thefinancialcoconut.com. With that, have a great day ahead. Stay tuned next week and always remember, personal finance can be chill, clear, and sustainable for all. Okay, so I think this is a very basic opening of what you can do as China starts to export itself. Because China already risen. We cannot say China start to rise. China already risen, but its rise is still very localized, or at least regionalized, right? So you only recently start to see big Chinese companies opening up big offices abroad. In the past, they have offices abroad, but it's not huge, right? The Bank of China has been around for a long time in Singapore. ICBC has been around for a long time in Singapore, but it's always in a small operation supporting very small merchants and small local community, all right? But now you see that opening up big offices, Tencent, Alibaba, JD, ByteDance. You will see more and more of these tech companies hiring regionally, and you will also see more and more of the big financial companies hiring regionally. And with that, you really want to be better prepared for some of these future, right? And I think these three are a good place to start. Of course, as things become more nuanced, I will keep updating you guys on what I observed out there with China's rise. And next week, I'm gonna share with you why I think China will win. I think this is important because I keep saying China, but why I think China will win? And the thing is, predicting a win is quite a suicide to Korea. Because I'm essentially trying to forecast what is going to happen into the future, right? And I will say that it's not a guarantee, but there's a very good chance that China will win, at least in the region. Okay, if you think about it, even if China does not dominate and it splits up into a three-part, a global order where the US dominates, Canada and Mexico and the whole America, and the Europeans start to become closer as a community, rather than working with the US, they might tilt to Asia more because they're not incentivized to work with the US as much going forward if they want to continue to grow. And then China can be a localized power with Japan and the whole of the ASEAN bloc. All right, so like it or not, China's going to dominate somehow or another. But I'm going to share with you why I think China will dominate globally.